Special board meeting, essentially concerning the opening of a public hearing for the proposed development of Pilati Village. Can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'm going to get to our business first, which will be pretty short prior to opening up the public hearing. It'll give a few more people some time to come in.
And
Okay.
just for anybody who came in late, if you want a copy of the agenda, they're on the end of the dais over here.
Okay. First item is I'll make a motion to open up tonight's meeting. I'll second. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
All aye.
Cardone, aye. Okay. First up is I'll make a motion approving John Galat for the position of full-time labor of our maintenance department at an hourly rate of $20 and an anticipated start date of July 10th, 2023. He has been pre-approved by Orange County Department of Human Resources. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
All aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Next up, this is not on the agenda, but we're adding it because it concerns our YAC program at Smith Clove. We'll make a motion that the Town Board of Town of Monroe approves Emma Brownagel for employment as a recreation aide with the Youth Activity Camp at Smith Clove Park at an hourly rate of $14.20 an hour for the seasonal period of July 5th, 2023 through August 11th, 2023. Emma has been pre-approved for employment by Orange County Department of Human Resources.
Hall will second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
All aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Okay. Keep waiting for that McGinn, aye.
I know.
Okay, next up is a resolution in support of the Town of Monroe's grant application for the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation under the Environmental Protection Fund Program for grants and parks, preservation, and heritage for the purpose of funding the Monbassia Park Improvement Project. It's essentially, the Town of Monroe is authorized and directed to accept a grant not to exceed $150,000 for the project described in the grant application. Essentially, that's it. Pertaining that, there are a couple of items we're looking at doing. Do I have to read the entire resolved section, Council? Do I have to read the entire resolved section? It just basically...
You do not have to read the entire resolved section. You just have to summarize it briefly for the record.
Yeah, and that's basically, it's $150,000 for a project described in the grant application, and it's basically...
And all of the backup materials are already in the record,
yeah.
so it's fine.
So, okay,
I have a question. Do
sure.
you have to authorize Valerie to sign this, or not necessary?
We have to authorize myself to sign it.
So you can't make the motion.
Right, correct. Yep.
I'll make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign for the Monbassia Park Grant, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation.
Supervisor, even though the bottom says signature of the clerk?
Yeah, you're signing this that was for the resolution.
Okay,
That's not for the actual grant.
okay.
Hall will second.
Any other discussion? Just a background on it, there's a couple of playground areas that we're looking to improve with playground systems. So we haven't finalized anything yet, but we're working with a couple of, our Parks Director, Emery Morris, is working with a couple of people. Okay, call the question?
Hingham, aye.
Full aye.
Cardone, aye.
Stankerello, aye.
Okay, so moved. Okay, now on to the public hearing. Before we make a motion to open the public hearing, just a couple of ground rules. So anybody who has signed up to speak will receive 5 minutes to speak this evening. It will not be a back and forth conversation between the town board and those that are speaking. You're essentially coming up here to speak. I would hope that we get some professional decorum from the audience. It looks like a professional audience, so I think we will. And your questions could possibly be addressed at some time in the future. And we're not looking to close this public hearing tonight. We're going to keep it open. Prior to the public hearing or prior to the speakers, there will be a presentation by the engineers for the Pilati Village project. It will hopefully inform you. And the only other thing I ask is if somebody brings up a topic ahead of you, if you want to concur with it, fine. I think it's in the best interest of everyone that we don't duplicate what somebody who comes before you says. Just want to turn it over to council for a second, too.
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor. I'd just like to stress that this is a public hearing. That means that the board is here to hear from the public. The public has an opportunity to comment on the application after the applicant has presented it. It's not a question and answer session. You may, of course, ask questions, and the questions may be answered in due course. The board is not required to answer them on the record at this time because these are questions that they're hearing for the first time. And they do need an opportunity to be able to review it, discuss it with their professionals, and answer it appropriately. Of course, any comments you provide during this public hearing will be part of the record, and they will be addressed during the application process in due course. As the supervisor already mentioned, please try to be professional. Please refrain from any eye rolling or interrupting while someone else is speaking. This is obviously not targeted at any specific individual, but based on prior experience with other public hearings. So please try to keep it professional, and everyone will get an opportunity. Your time will be limited to 5 minutes per person, simply for purposes of ensuring that everyone gets an adequate opportunity to be heard.
Okay, thank you. Morganti?
Supervisor, do we need a motion to open?
Yes, I just wanted him to come up first. Thank you. Okay, I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Hingham, aye.
Full aye.
Cardone, aye.
Stankerello, aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Morgante. I am the project engineer for this application. It's before the town board for the landing of a CCR zone. And I'm here tonight to give a quick presentation, an overview of the project. If Ms. Bitzer can actually bring up that PowerPoint presentation on the screen, I will move over to one of the TVs and utilize that as an opportunity to provide the presentation.
Still downloading.
If you could just click Enable Editing on the top over there. And then you should be able to go to Slideshow, 2 more to the left. Up at the top where the, there you go, Slideshow right there. And it should say from the beginning all the way to the left. That's okay. So if you just click the mouse, there you go. Okay, so again, good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Morgante. I'm the engineer for this project entitled Pilati Village. The project is located off of Harriman Heights Road in the town of Monroe. So we've got a team assembled for this project. I am obviously the consulting engineer. We also have been working with Coppola Associates out of Newburgh for the architectural work. And essentially, but the four main players associated with the project, we'll begin with the Sisters of Charity Housing Development Corp. They're the lead developer in the project. They've been founded in 1998. They're a community-based non-for-profit dedicated to developing, managing, and advocating for affordable housing for the elderly, the homeless, and homeless households. They own and provide support services for over 1,000 units in New York, which is important to note because they have a lot of experience actually doing this type of work. The next team player here is Parish Property Management. They were founded in 2003 and have built a management portfolio that includes hundreds of religious and education properties throughout the United States. They're not only servicing clients in the private industry, but work closely with many religious orders, including the Palatine Sisters in this case. Our next team player here is Rockabill. They were founded in 2007 and have been involved in the development of over 12,000 units of affordable housing with costs in excess of $1.5 billion. They specialize in financial structuring of affordable housing projects through the issuance of low-income housing tax credits. And then our general contractor is Affordable Housing Concepts, a local company out of Newburgh and Gardner. They have over 40 years of construction experience throughout the tri-state area. They've constructed many projects like this, one of which is Vincent's Village down in Rockland County. They'll not only advise on the design during the process, which they have, but they'll be responsible for construction of the project along with the project budget and schedule. That's just a general overview of the players that are involved in this project. All four have a lot of experience doing this, which is obviously a good thing. So the site is currently located actually in an R1 zone, and what we're here for tonight is to have a CCR floating zone landed on this property in place of the R1 zone that's currently located there. As I'm sure most of the public's aware, the site is located between Mansion Ridge Golf Course and Sapphire Elementary School off of Harriman Heights Road. The site actually encompasses both sides of the road, the northern side of the road and the southern side of the road. This site is proposed for inclusion within the CCR floating zone to permit the development that's being proposed. The project is situated on about 89.18 acres of land. It's owned by the Palatine Sisters of the Catholic Apostolate. It'll be constructed in two phases. Again, we've got a south side of the road and a north side of the road. So the south side of the road is essentially our first phase. That is a senior housing building, and it'll consist of 88 one-bedroom units and 12 two-bedroom units. The second phase of the project will be on the northern side of Harriman Heights Road and will consist of two multifamily buildings, one of which will have 24 one-bedroom units, 24 two-bedroom units, and 12 three-bedroom units. As also included in the second phase of the project on the northern side of the road, we're proposing 18 townhouses that will consist of 6 two-bedroom units and 12 three-bedroom units. And there's also a town soccer field proposed with the second phase of the development as well. So again, it's located off Harriman Heights Road, and currently what's there now are the remains of several convent buildings that date back to 1912. They were removed about 20 years ago, give or take, and there's currently one convent building on the site which was actually constructed in the early 2000s. So as you drive by the site, you'll see a lot of remaining impervious surfaces, pavement, and open areas. There's an existing maintenance garage located on the northern side towards the rear of the property. There's also an existing cemetery that's located on the northern side of the site. And there are a few public water supply wells that are currently located on the property that were associated with the prior development. And there are also 2 wastewater treatment plants, one on the south side of the road and one on the north side of the road. The wastewater treatment plant on the south side of the road, for the public's knowledge, is what we call a secondary treatment system, and essentially what it has is clarification followed by secondary treatment and then discharges to a New York State DEC wetland that's located on the south side. And on the northern side, we have what's called a sand filter plant. So essentially wastewater travels through some piping, goes into the sand filter where it's filtered and purified, then it's chlorinated, and that's pumped across the road on Harriman Heights Road to an outfall that's not too far away from Blythea Lake. So this is just a general idea so the public can see the overall master development plan. Anything that's shown in blue on this screen is essentially either a wetland, a water body, or the adjacent buffer zone associated with the wetland. Anything that's in like a gray or a brown color is our proposed development, and everything that is green is actually going to remain as open space. As a part of that open space, the wetlands will be included, and as you can see, there's quite a bit of green shown on the plan. As a result of the requirements of the CCR zone, we are required to maintain, I believe, 65% open space associated with the project. We are actually maintaining between both the northern and southern sites 68%. So the proposed development is going to be drilled by new public water supply wells. Those have actually been drilled. There's 2 wells on the southern site that were drilled and pump tested. There were 2 wells on the northern site that were also drilled and pump tested. They were pump tested in accordance with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and Health Department requirements. They were 72-hour pump tests. We had to actually monitor wells in the neighboring community. We found no impacts to those wells, so the wells have been validated to be able to supply adequate water for the proposed project, as well as not impact the water supply of the surrounding community. As I mentioned before, we're providing 68% open space for both phases. Our goal is to place it in a land trust. We are trying to work through that process as we speak. We are including 178 total units, which meets the zoning density requirements. 20% of those 178 units will be restricted to families earning less than 100% of the area median. And the 100 units will be restricted to families where at least one person is over the age of 55.
Excuse me, Mike.
Yes.
In your presentation, I think the total number across the street was 90, which was confusing to me.
We have 100 units on the south and 78 on the north.
Yeah, if you go back in your presentation, I just want to clarify for the public
If
because...
you can go back. You can hit escape, and then you can find the slide and go back.
Go up about 3 slides, Val. Go up one more. So, second phase, it says 24, 24, and 12, which is 60. And then it shows 18 and 12, which is 30, which is 90.
I'll tell you, when we bring up the architectural plan in a little bit later, I'll show you how the units are broken down. I think
Okay.
the language there might be slightly misleading to you.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
But in your
It is
knowledge, it's 178.
It's 178 units.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Val.
We should be good here. So again, we're located in close proximity to the village of Monroe and the village of Harriman, which is one of the important criterias for landing the CCR zone. We are located on one parcel of land that we subdivided for the existing convent, proposed buildings, and a town soccer field. There's a calculation called a floor area ratio, which basically takes the square footage of the proposed buildings and divides it by the total area of the land. We are required to maintain a .07 number, and we are actually at .065, so we meet that. We are providing extensive open space comprised of landscaped areas, lawns, and areas that will remain in their natural wooded state or wetland state. Visual screening is provided throughout both phases through the preservation of existing vegetation and proposed landscaping. We did do an extensive visual analysis too as a part of the planning board process for this particular project, and the visual analysis showed that there would be no adverse impacts to the surrounding community. Existing stone walls along Harriman Heights Road, trees, any of the existing site features that are kind of add to the character of the property, we're aiming to try to maintain those as well. And that's pretty much a basic summary of the project as it stands. I can turn it over to the town board at this time and their consultants if they have any questions, particularly for me, before you open it up to the public for their input as well.
Have anything? No. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Carol Hawkshurst.
When you come up, if you could please state your name and your address. Thank you.
Good evening, Carol Hawkshurst. I live on Hawkshurst Road in Monroe. Good evening. I want to start off, I know this has been in the works for a long time and has been between the planning board and the town board for quite some time. I know I've been here enough times for you to know that I am not pro CCR zoning. For a number of reasons. I don't know, I don't understand with 1 acre zoning why, or even we can make it 2 acre zoning to try to protect the land and not have so much development. We live in the suburbs, and I don't see these roadways handling all the traffic. It's already, I'm kind of repeating myself from about Rye Hill. It's the roadways are congested as it is. People are getting frustrated. I talk to many. I live and work in this community, and I talk to a lot of people who are very frustrated. We have a beautiful town here, close community ties, beautiful scenic countryside, open space. We have a rich history here, and I just don't want to see it going in this direction. I wonder why we can't make modifications to our comprehensive plan since so many are opposed to this. And kind of reviewed that. I also wondered how much of the acreage being conserved couldn't be built on anyway due to environmental constraints. You say, or it's being stated that we are conserving or protecting acreage from being built on. I don't see that we are. Please eliminate CCR zoning. This area is not designed for it, and many residents have already spoken out against this. Please listen to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Antoinette Cairns.
Evening.
Good evening, Tony. Antoinette Kerens, 111 Continental Drive, Monroe, New York. I would like to say two things. One is the sisters have spent a long time trying to get a builder and an engineer and a company that would make a desirable project, especially for senior citizens. They've done a lot of investigations through the Sisters of Charity, and there is a tremendous, tremendous need for housing for senior citizens in Monroe. We had originally 13 buildings on that property, and they took them all down to make it a nice facility. And I think the people, Rockabill, and the companies that are involved have really done a wonderful job in researching through the Sisters of Charity and trying to provide a very nice project. As a senior citizen who lived 58 years in Monroe, I lost my husband, and I said this at the last meeting 2 years ago, and I desperately did not want to purchase anything. At 82 years old, I didn't think I wanted to purchase anything, but there was nothing available in Monroe, nothing. And it wasn't even that it wasn't affordable, it just wasn't available. So I had to end up purchasing a condo, which I'm very happy in. I love it, I'm in Cromwell Hill, but that is money I could have used to live on. And now I had to invest that in property at 82 years old, which seems a little ridiculous to me. I am also a member of the Catholic Daughters, and there are many Catholic daughters, and I'm also part of the bereavement of Monroe, that are looking forward to this project that really need the housing, especially senior citizens. I have a friend here who has a brother that absolutely needs it. So I think that when we're talking about development, eventually that property is going to be developed some way or another, So I think at this point, we have a builder that cares about it. We can service the senior citizens. It's certainly not going to go forever not being developed. Monroe is just too important for that. So I think whoever is considering that they shouldn't have this project, I certainly feel they should protect their property. I was a homeowner here. But they should think about the fact that so much care has been given to make sure that we try as hard as we could, or that the sisters could, to bring in a project that would benefit the seniors and benefit Monroe. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Helene Shepherd. Helene Shepherd.
Evening.
My name is Helene Shepherd. I live in 32 Matthews Lane, Washingtonville, New York. I came up to Monroe in 1957. I've seen all the changes. I worked in Monroe Woodbury for 30 years. I love Monroe, but I could not get a condo in Monroe. I had to purchase one when my husband died. I'm 83 in Washingtonville. I see a great need for this project, and I speak on behalf of it in favor of Vincent Pallotti Village coming to fruition so that affordable housing and apartments for widows like myself would be available. I'm also the president of the Catholic Daughters of the Americas, Past Regents chapter here in the Archdiocese of New York. And we number 3,000 women, all or many like my own age, and are in need of housing. There's not enough of it around. So I speak in favor of it, and I hope to see it come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan Oram.
before you begin. Can you read off the name, who's next, so they could get prepared?
Diane Mior.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Joan, thank you.
I am Joan Orm. I live at 3915 Weathervane Drive in Washingtonville, New York. I too am a Catholic daughter, so that is the reason I'm here to support the convent, the nuns. I want to speak in favor of the Vincent Pallotti Village. I believe that it's a it's a need for affordable housing, which people like myself do need. And there are many people that I know in my own age, and I'm 79, so I can say that with pride. And I feel that these people are interested and in need of these housing. And I may live in Washingtonville, but I worked for 30 years at First Care in Monroe. So I know what it's like here. And I'm in favor of the Vincent Pallotti Village. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who's up next?
Diane Mior. Next after Diane will be Jim Gulick.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Diane Miuri, 143, Tomm Road, Washingtonville. I come tonight as a friend of the Palatine Sisters, and I'd like to speak in favor of this project. For almost 100 years, the sisters have owned a large tract of land along Harriman Heights Road. As the complexion of the area has changed over the course of the last century, so has the use of the property. Buildings have been erected for one purpose and then repurposed or removed as the sisters shift to the needs of the community and their own population. The Palatine Sisters have created a housing plan for a fragile demographic, the aging baby boomers. There are presently over 70 million baby boomers in the United States, and it is expected that 61 million of them will still be alive as we enter the next decade. Many of these elderly citizens will be looking to leave their current homes when they can no longer live alone. As a region of a Catholic Daughters Court neighboring Washingtonville, a quick census of the 115 members in our group indicates that half of them are over the age of 65, and some of them would probably be very interested in this sort of housing in the town next door. I would urge the board to look favorably upon this much-needed project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Gulick. Following is Maureen Richardson.
Jim.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Number 9 Shadowmere Road. Right away, I just don't think that the CCR is even needed in this. We just build the one big building for the seniors. Everyone's happy. The seniors get their building, and we get the open space and not all the extra water that's being taken out and all the extra water that's going in the lake. Because I sympathize with the folks that just talked about having a place to stay, but from their house to their place to stay, the lake by my house gets turned into basically a retention pond, say, and that's sort of smelly. It's not so good at all. I'd also like to know if there is going to be a water protection district for the village, and if we're going to be involved, or we can be involved in that water protection district, because the way I understand it, the way it works, only the people in the protection district are actually protected by that district. So if someone like myself outside the district, well goes bad, after a little time of pumping, I've got to take care of it. None of you folks have to take care of it unless you guys want us coming over and showering and getting water from your house so we could use our house. That, it starts to get a little tedious. I also like to know which wells were tested up on our road, because we're basically the closest to where those wells were punched in the ground. And let's see, what else here? I think that's it. Again, the CCR unit, I don't think you need to put it here at all. Just scale this back to a reasonable amount, and everybody's happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maureen Richardson. Next will be Angela Curtis.
Maureen Richardson, Harriman Heights Road in Monroe.
Good evening.
Good evening. I agree with the prior speakers that there's an absolute lack of housing for seniors and affordable housing in this area, as well as any amenities to facilitate such a high-density or mid-density build by Harriman Heights. I do want to know why, after approximately 8 years on the board, have we made no motion to take care of our senior citizens prior to CCR development? Why have we not made any efforts to facilitate them in pockets all over town, integrated into the existing services, into the existing amenities that would actually facilitate and take care of them, instead of trying to concentrate them all on an inappropriate location in a disadvantaged water district on land that cannot facilitate this build without the zoning that you recently created, that you recently passed, and are now appearing to push for Pilati Village, even though most of us do not want it on Harriman Heights because it would change the demographic of that area. We don't see it as appropriate, and we don't see seniors being taken care of there because, once again, it's a county road in an unincorporated town of Monroe, which is the largest municipality in Orange County, I believe, without a constituted police force. It takes 30 minutes to get to the nearest hospital, and you're going to place critical care seniors on Harriman Heights Road with the ideal condition being that an instantaneous ambulance ride is 30 minutes. Meanwhile, in reality, our location on a normal day is 30 minutes for that ambulance to arrive. Our EMTs do not appear to have the critical care senior training that they would require, as in my personal experience with my aging mother, I was told, leave her to die, essentially. She's had cancer for 5 years. Let her rest, is what I was told. That's illegal. From our own EMTs, my mother just needed an IV, and they did not understand how to take care of her. I would not want that to happen to a group of senior citizens who are concentrated all in one area. The amount of service that this would take up, not only for EMTs, but for fire, for police, to keep them safe, we don't even have that staff to support the current population in Monroe. So are we doing anything? Why are we building this? Why are we building so much high density all at once when, like the prior speaker said, facilitate what we need now based on the demand on other affordable buildings, apartment buildings in the area. Facilitate the demand that we have now for senior housing based on the senior center. Do a rough calculation, facilitate that, calculate that number of units instead of trying to exploit the wetlands, which should remain conserved, which should not be counted as a donation because there's no access for the public to walk through Harriman Heights Road and say this is public land that belongs to me. It's town-owned land that will not be considered preserved land by OSI, by OCLT, or held under any conservation easement under their choice. They would not have chosen to say, yes, I will preserve the land in front of an apartment building. The lawn counts. Every speck of green in the parking lot counts towards the 68%. I doubt that if we're calculating it in a way that OSI and OCLT, who hold conservation easements, I doubt they would look at that and say this is 68% of the land is conserved. The CCR zoning right now facilitates unsustainable growth, illogical growth in Monroe. We need to change it before we facilitate even how much effort someone put in. If they took down buildings prior, it does not matter. The investment that they put in, it does not matter. You are the votes that say, and it is up to your discretion, you are the votes that say, actually, I think that we have to push this off the table and look at CCR again. Because why is this particular form of CCR so important to the board right now? Why is it that we can't do a traditional clustered development, which does take into account the environmental restrictions? It does subtract the wetlands. Let's see a calculation of how many units that puts on Harriman Heights. Because again, this is not possible without CCR. It would not be built on otherwise in this capacity without your vote, without your decision. It cannot be, because it is rural 1 acre 1 zoning, and the wetlands constitute, according to Mike Margano, 50% of the donated parcel. It's not possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela Curtis. Angela Curtis. Next speaker will be Sister Olivia.
Angela Curtis, 129 Wildcat Road, Monticello, New York. And although I'm not a resident of Monroe, I spent a lot of time here with Catholic Daughters and Sacred Heart Parish Catholic Daughters, PTAF, sponsored by the Palatine Sisters, and have many friends here. And I definitely see this as a win-win situation, that the housing is needed and would be a beneficial product and project to the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sister Olivia.
Good evening.
Good evening,
My name
sister.
is Sister Olivia Reginella. I did not know I was going to speak, but I will be happy to say something regarding this project. This project has been in process for quite a few years, and from the very beginning, it was we felt, the sisters, we felt that it was so necessary for the seniors that are in the area waiting and looking for a place to live. I was part of the Monroe Senior Center, and all of those dear people, dear ladies that were in my senior center, they had to just move away either to North Carolina or South Carolina, and they just couldn't find a place to live. So basically, we really feel that this is a worthy, worthwhile project and will benefit the town of Monroe. Thank you.
Thank you, sister.
Joy Heyman.
You're welcome.
Joy Hyman.
Good evening.
I'm Joy Hyman. I live at 64 Shadowmere Road. I have a whole list of questions. So I know you can't answer them right now necessarily.
They'll be put into the record, so.
Okay. Looking at the plans and the documents that I'm finding on the website, which thank you very much, I do not see a whole lot of senior housing here, and I understand the need for it. As a senior myself, I know I look pretty good for 68, but, and a mother at 93 and a mother-in-law at 95. I understand there are issues. I don't see that this project is really taking care of our seniors here. Do Monrovians get first choice? You know, I don't really understand that. And I don't know what workforce housing means. And Blythea Lake, there is mention of including that in the CCR. I don't know what that means. What would that mean? Does it mean it's just monitored for the next 30 years? Better monitoring? Is the lake then made public to all the housing that's going on in Harriman Heights? I don't know. Another question. Road traffic. I haven't heard that really addressed. I haven't found any documents on that. So with so much housing, there's going to be cars, and the only outlet is on Harriman Heights Road, and from Harriman Heights out, I guess you could go either way, down or up, but seems like that should be looked into a little bit more. And then as far as the water protection, I am a little concerned about the water in our area. We were concerned when Applecross came through. We were concerned when Mansion Ridge went in. what are our, like right now, our home is our biggest asset. It's just, that's our biggest asset right now. That was our dream. We have our home. And if we have no water, that's not going to do us much good. The value of our home goes down. The value of our home, I believe, would go down just with this whole development. If it was senior housing on one side of the road where it really took care of those questions that seniors need, I understand that a lot better. I don't see that happening. It's just sort of piled on. And yeah, what town services? There's not a store to walk to. I'm really not sure about that. Good point that Maureen made about ambulance service. That's kind of important. If something does happen and our wells go dry, what do we do? What are the process for that? Is there bonding going on that's going to be held? I don't know. Jim mentioned the well testing. None of the wells on Shadowmere were tested. There is a list. But yeah, so none of the wells on the back of the road were tested there. That would be closest. The wells that were affected at one point with Applecross and Mansion Ridge. So I think that should have been something done. So yeah, I'm not real happy about the whole thing, but there are some serious concerns that should be addressed.
Thank you very
Waleed
much.
Harity.
Good evening.
Waleed Haridi, 95 Hawkshurst Road, here in Monroe. A lot of the things I wanted to talk about, it's already mentioned here. But every day we wake up to something like this. We having problem with traffic. We having problem with water. My neighbor last year has to dig, I don't know how much you have to dig? 100 feet, no water, right here on Hawkshurst Road. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, we left the city to come here to the picture behind you, town of Monroe, right there, the lake region. This doesn't look nice to me. When you want to take care of senior citizens, build something for them, but why you need this? How many of this project, 187, 178, how many of these for senior citizens? 50 something? How many? 100? That's it. So just build it for the senior citizens, if that's what you really need, and everyone is happy. Why we need all this for? I mean, how is this benefit Monroe? I just would like to know. Already our taxes are high, and then you need extra care from the police, from all this kind of things that it's extra. So who's gonna pay the extra? Us? So water, traffic, doesn't look nice. Who's benefit from this? How is Monroe benefit from this? I just don't know. I don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pete Toohey.
Would you forget your name?
He dozed off.
No, it's on. You just might have to raise it. There you go.
Hi, my name's Peter Toohey. I live on 9 Balder Court in Monroe, up off of the top of Rye Hill Road. And after hearing comments tonight, I want to applaud the good sisters for decades and decades and decades of ministry to the town of Monroe and the surrounding communities. After all those years of ministry, for them to move forward with a project that would help our senior citizens here, it's remarkable. They have a track record. They've got another village, I think, down in Rockland that they're assimilated with. I understand that everybody, you can't please everybody, but I know that, the people that don't want it, they have their say too, and they have their concerns. But I really feel that the senior citizens here in Monroe have been underserved for years, not just 8 years, decades also. And so I would, it sounds like the plans are in place for water, for sewer, for water buffer zones. And I just wanted to get on record and say that I support it. And I wholeheartedly want to thank the sisters, the Palatine sisters, for all they've done over the years here in our beautiful community that obviously everyone in this room loves. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all for public comment.
That's it? Okay. Did you want to say something else in regard to some of the concerns?
The only thing I would add, Mr. Supervisor, is that I did hear people have some questions regarding traffic. We conducted exhaustive traffic analysis for this project. It was reviewed not only by the Orange County Department of Public Works, but it was thoroughly reviewed also by the town's planning board consultant. And the well testing that we did, just to give the public an idea, a 72-hour pump test, we're essentially running a pump for 3 days straight at the maximum demand that this project would have, which is an unlikely, it's a 0% chance that's how this water would be used when the facilities are actually in operation, if you could understand what I'm saying to you. So the pump testing is done at a very high level. The traffic analysis was reviewed at also a very high level. These documents have been made available to the public during the public information meeting that we had earlier in the spring. I do believe they're also a part of the Dropbox link that I sent the town board. So I encourage the public also to download those documents, take a look at them. My information is on those plans and those reports. They can contact me directly too if they have any other questions. I'd be glad to speak with them offline. And those are the only additional comments I have for the town board at this time.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I think one of the major concerns residents brought up was their wells weren't tested. Is there a possibility that they can be tested to show that there's little, minimal, or a lot of effect regarding their wells?
I would need to go back and review the wells that we did monitor. I honestly don't remember them off the top of my head, but I do know that we tried to choose the wells that were closest to our development. I don't recall if any on Shadowmere were selected. I also had an informational meeting with the public for the wastewater treatment plants, which was another matter that I dealt with the DEC. People who logged in for that meeting actually made a request to me for having their wells monitored. There was quite a few people who asked. We honored what we could that were close by and the closest to the actual development area. So the pump testing is done. It's complete. I would rather give the town board some information on the wells that were selected, and then I think we could probably make a better decision on if there's any additional requirements that might be made after that.
O'Connor? If you just want to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Supervisor Cardone. My name is Bill O'Connor. I'm going to be one of the builders and the developers of this project. I've been working with the town leadership for many years on this project, and I just wanted to say one thing in support of it and also to address some of the concerns tonight. You know, I met with Sister Olivia almost 6-7 years ago regarding this project, and at the time the sisters realized they weren't going to be using the property anymore. As vested citizens and people part of this community for 100 years, they wanted to make sure that the property would be used as something that would serve the community. They could have done what other people in town have done, which is sell their property off to Toll Brothers and build condos along the golf course, and they would have gotten a lot more money for that. But Sister Olivia didn't want that. She wanted something that would serve Monroe. And because of that, we searched long and hard about ways that would serve the town, and the thing that we came up with that was most beneficial was senior housing, Someone asked about what is workforce housing. That's for the most part blue-collar housing, teachers, cops, firemen, things like that. And in order for us to make this work, we have to get funding from New York State. We've been working long and hard with New York State to try and get this thing funded. We've been through 2 presidents, we've been through COVID, we've been through many, many meetings here at the town board, and we want to get this going. We want to address all your concerns. We want to know what you want. We want to make sure that we build something that will serve the community. But I just wanted to make sure that all of you understood the backdrop for this, which is that the sisters could have went in a different direction. They chose not to. And I think they should be applauded for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the town board have any comments? No? Nope. Okay. Council? We're gonna,
I have nothing further.
no? Okay. So, I will make a motion to keep the public hearing open on July 10th, which is Monday.
Supervisor, would that be a motion to continue the public hearing?
Continue
to
the
July
public
7th?
hearing on July 10th at 7 PM or immediately thereafter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman McGinn?
He's not here.
I'm a Councilman Scancarello. Sorry. You have that Irish look about you today. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Bull, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Ancarello, aye.
All right, so moved. We don't have anything for executive session, so I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Bull, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Ancarello, aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending. Both pros and cons are always appreciated.